How's it going, guys? Alex here. Welcome back to another Dokkan Battle video, and today we are going to be taking a look at Super Saiyan Rage Trunks as well as Zamasu, and both of these units are very interesting because they do completely different things. Granted, there are certain aspects of their cards that are similar, but for the most part they are completely different units, and of course because one is a hero and one is a villain, they are supposed to be somewhat different. But when they were both released, they were a very interesting pair of units, and one of the reasons why is because they were the hero and villain leads, but we just had a hero and villain lead release because of course Vegito, Blue and Rose are the leads for their hero and villain teams, but so are these guys. But the difference is that these guys give more of an increase, but they don't give as much keys, so it kind of works differently on both versions of the game. So I am of course going to be touching on that. But let's go ahead and get started with Super Saiyan Rage Trunks. His leader skill gives 1 key to super types as well as a 70% stat boost. He causes immense damage and greatly lowers defense, and he has a 12 key multiplier of 140%, and he changes STR orbs into N-type orbs, and he also gets a 15% attack boost per orb obtained. And at Super Attack 10, I didn't actually mention this, at Super Attack 10 he gets an additional 30% attack added to his Super Attack multiplier. And if we move on to his links, he has Golden Warrior, Messenger from the Future, Super Saiyan, Dismal Future, Prepares for Battle, and Fierce Battles. So a very interesting card. I don't see many units these days apart from the LRs that get an additional increase at Super Attack 10, so that was a nice added bonus. But I think like the good thing about this guy is that he is self-sufficient, and at the time it was actually good to run, well, it was basically possible to run a double Super Saiyan Rage Trunks lead because he is self-sufficient. Granted, he isn't going to be sharing as many links as some of the other guys. For example, your entire team is basically going to be made up of fusions at that point, because of course you would have Vegito Blue, Super Vegito, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks Gogeta, and maybe Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, or actually at the time you wouldn't have Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, but then of course you would have the Rage Trunks lead, and you could actually run a double Rage Trunks lead because of how many key links every single unit in your team shared. And of course having units that are fusions helps massively as well, and because this man is self-sufficient, it didn't really drag the team down, and there was just a lot of synergy in that team. But to be honest, the fact that he is a nuker doesn't really hurt him that much, again because he is self-sufficient, and because of how many orbs he is most likely going to collect like every single turn that he is up isn't going to be that much of a problem. And of course he still has a pretty decent link set. Of course his main key link is going to be Prepare for Battle, which he is going to be sharing with the majority of the units on that team at the time. Of course Super Saiyan, Fierce Battle, so his link set wasn't a problem at all. Granted, Shocking Speed would have maybe helped him out a little, but again it goes back to him being self-sufficient, so in the overall grand scheme of things it didn't really matter too much. And of course that 15% attack boost per in orb obtained is absolutely insane, so he can easily hit for over 1 million if you can get a certain amount of orbs. The one drawback to this particular card is that his free ability is dodge, so if you don't get any dupes it's going to be a bit harder for you to get the crits and additionals to go off, of course. But overall, incredible card upon his release. His leader skill was a very interesting surprise to some people, I would imagine, just because I don't think people expected to have another hero lead in just such a short period of time, and that 70% of course was equivalent to the best leader skills that we had at the time with the Super Vegito and Omega Shenron leads and such. But of course the 50% leads were still good because they provided that key, but they perfectly balanced the release of both units. They basically made both leads viable. You could either use the Rose, Zamasu, Vegito Blue, or Super Saiyan Rage Trunks lead, and it would work relatively well. Of course I am going to touch on Zamasu a bit more once I move on to him, but overall Rage Trunks, incredible card with dupe system investments, and of course if you are lucky enough to get dupes, an even better card just because he can easily hit for over 1 million even without any crits, to be honest. And another thing that makes him one of the best cards in the game is the fact that he can be paired up with LR Gohan, which definitely creates one of the best partnerships in the game. The amount of orbs that he gives Gohan is just absolutely insane, and at the same time it kind of makes Rage Trunks irrelevant because Gohan can pretty much one-shot everything at this point. So if you have LR Gohan, Trunks is essentially just a support unit, which is kind of a shame because he himself is a very hard hitter if he can collect enough orbs, and of course if he has enough ability system investments. But for the most part, if you are lucky enough to have that LR Gohan, you're going to be giving those orbs to Gohan the majority of the time. So again, it comes down to what you personally own. If you have LR Gohan, he is just going to be a support unit for Gohan essentially, but outside of that he is still a very good unit by himself, a great lead lead for that hero team. He has kind of fallen off slightly just because it's better to run Vegito Blue, and it's not to say that Rage Trunks is bad, but there are definitely better options, I'd say, especially if you do have that LR Gohan, because you're most likely going to be running LR Gohan over Rage Trunks on a hero team, and there are just better options, basically. It's not, again, not to say that he's bad by any means on a hero team. He is definitely optimal on a mono INT team just because of what he provides in terms of offensive capabilities and just as a support unit, because he is technically a support unit as well. Just because he does change those orbs, of course, those orbs are intended for him, but LR Gohan just has other ideas. But again, overall, incredible unit, still one of the best units in the game, of course. I wouldn't say he's top 10, but he has slightly fallen out of that, but he still does a job, basically. And one thing that I actually forgot to mention is that he does have a farmable super attack, so he does have that going for him. It's a bit harder than normal farms, but it's still there if you want to do it. Maybe you just want to get into like super attack 6 or something, and then go the rest of the way with Kai's, because that's definitely a possibility. I know that particular grind is very Zenny draining as well as metal draining, but I definitely think it's worth it in the end. But now, if we move on to TEQ Zamasu, or as it is stated in the global version, Fusion Zamasu, I just refer to him as Zamasu the majority of the time. But of course, his leader skill gives 1 key to extreme types, as well as a 70% stat boost. He causes immense damage, pardon me, and greatly lowers defense. He has a 12 key multiplier of 140%. He has a farmable super attack, which is miles easier than Rage Trunks, just because, actually it's debatable, because for Rage Trunks, you kind of have to go all the way, and it's a 100% chance, of course, but with Zamasu, it's a 50% chance, so pick your poison, basically. You can go with either one, like which one you prefer, basically. He gets a 120% attack boost, and he lowers the attack of super type allies by 10%, and that was a very interesting addition. It actually doesn't make that much of a difference. Granted, your units are going to be hitting as hard as they normally would when your Zamasu isn't in your rotation, but it honestly doesn't make that much of a difference. His link skills are Nightmare, Godly Power, Fear and Faith, Fused Fighter, Big Bad Bosses, Dismal Future, and Fierce Battle. It's a bit of a shame that this man did not get Super Saiyan. Granted, it wouldn't have been too great on a villain. Actually, it would have been okay because you have Rose, who does have Super Saiyan, but it would have been an interesting addition to the card, because I suppose you could argue that he is a Super Saiyan in here, but it's fine. His link set is absolutely incredible. He gets a 120% attack boost, and at the time, not many units got that much of an increase, but I believe that Rose actually kind of hit harder just because he has a better 12 key multiplier, and his attack stat was a bit higher, so you can debate which one hit harder at the time. But I believe that despite Zamasu getting a bigger increase, Rose hit slightly harder. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. And then, of course, he has the free ability, which is the crits. Of course, at the time of his release, the potential system wasn't there. And I just realized that I didn't actually talk too much about this at the start, but when it comes to which one was better upon their release, it was extremely debatable. I would say that Rage Trunks had a slight edge just because his team worked better and his potential damage was a bit higher. And the thing that kind of let Zamasu down was the fact that there wasn't too much support, and of course villains didn't exactly shed too many key links. But if you were to take a look at the global side of things, things are definitely a bit different. But let's talk about his link set real quick. He has Nightmare, Godly Power, Fear and Faith, Fused Fighter, Big Bad Bosses, Dismal Future, Fierce Battle. So Fierce Battle, absolutely incredible attack link. And of course, that is the attack link that every single Dokkan unit gets. Nightmare, which he shares with Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rose. I believe Buhan has it as well as Omega Shenron. Big Bad Bosses, easily the best attack and defensive link for villains. Fear and Faith, great key link. Fused Fighter, not so great for that villain team, but of course it runs pretty well on a TEQ team if you were running a double Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks lead. Dismal Future he shares with Super Saiyan Rose, Goku Black. But here's the thing, when they buffed Goku Black on global, this man legit was viable as a double lead, because before that Goku Black buff, I mean, Japan is never going to get that buff, just keep that in mind. But on global, when Goku Black got that buff, it actually makes a massive difference, because now you can run Zamasu on one rotation, and then you can run Super Saiyan Rose, and then on another rotation you can run Zamasu and Goku Black, who is going to be given that free key as well. And then in the last slot you'll maybe have Ella Broly, Janemba, Buhan, one of those units in there, and your entire rotation legit wouldn't have that many problems super attacking, because keep in mind the majority of these guys still share a ton of key links. For example, you have Fear and Faith, which is probably going to be the most common key link amongst villains. And of course, you have Dismal Future as well, which Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rose, and Zamasu are going to share, like I stated before. But Fear and Faith is definitely that main one. And you have Omega Shenron that 100% has that link. You have Janemba as well. So again, when it comes to linking, they aren't necessarily that bad. But the boost that both Goku Black and Super Saiyan Rose, Goku Black give just takes it to a completely different level. And of course, if you want to run Broly in your team as well, he is going to work because, again, the boost, they both have prepare for battle. So that Goku Black buff on the global version of the game actually made a monstrous difference. And if you were to try this particular team on the Japanese version of the game, you'd most likely struggle to super attack, whereas on the global version of the game, it's just going to be running so much smoother. I've personally run this team myself, and I can definitely say that this team is almost perfect. Granted, I'm not going to lie and say that I'm going to super attack with everyone in my rotation every single turn, but for the most part, every single unit in my rotation has been super attacking quite frequently. But if we were to talk about the potential system, honestly, they both benefit a ton from the potential system just because they both have percentage tri passives. Granted, you can argue that Rage Trunks has higher damage potential because he is a nuker, whereas Merge Master has that flat out attack boost. But again, it comes down to what you personally think is better. Do you want the consistency or do you want a nuker? And again, it comes down to the team that you are running. If you have LR Gohan, your orbs are most likely going to go to LR Gohan, whereas Rage Trunks may struggle to get that many orbs because they are going to LR Gohan. But if you don't have LR Gohan, he is going to be getting a ton of orbs. And then of course you have Merge Masu, who has a ton of attack links, so he is superior to Trunks in terms of attack links as well. He has Nightmare, Big Bad Bosses, and Fist Battle. Of course, Trunks does have Fist Battle, but you have to keep in mind that Big Bad Bosses is a 25% attack link, which is something that Trunks does not have. Merge Masu has Nightmare as well, and keep in mind that he shares all of these links with Super Saiyan Rose and Goku Black, and he also shares these links with the Legendary Rare, which is something that I actually haven't touched on too much. But for the most part, if you want to run a villain team, you can actually run a pretty solid, like, Future Trunks arc team. For example, you can have Merge Masu, Super Saiyan Rose, Goku Black, the LR, and that team would work pretty damn well just because they all hit pretty damn hard. Of course, you have the LR that can hit hard, that can heal, that can tank. Just every single unit on that particular team just provides something to the entire team, of course. And then your additional units, which I believe are 2 remaining. You can either run Cooler, you can run Janemba, you can run LR Broly, Majin Vegeta. There are just so many options for those final slots. It may not necessarily work as well as it would in the global version of the game because Goku Black doesn't give that boost, but your Merge Masu, your LR, your Super Saiyan Rose, and your Goku Black are guaranteed to super attack every single turn just because of what Super Saiyan Rose provides, of course, and because of how many key links they share. But when it comes to your other 2 units, that is where they may struggle to super attack from time to time. But for the most part, it's going to run really well. And of course, we can't forget the fact that he is easily one of the best partners for the LR. They pretty much share every single link apart from Prepare for Battle. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black actually shares every single link with the LR. But Merge Masu is pretty damn close to that. And of course, if you aren't lucky enough to pull the Transcendent Ultra Rare, well, that's essentially saying that you have to pull 2 Goku Blacks. But if you don't manage to pull 2 Goku Blacks, he is easily the next best thing just because you have to run him on that tech type team, of course. But if you want to run the LR and all of these other units on a villain team, of course, they're going to be linking up pretty damn well. Now, this is where I actually have to make a very tough decision because in terms of damage, they are both incredible. In terms of tanking capabilities, I would say that they are around the same level, kind of. But then you have Merge Masu that does have that Big Bad Bosses link, which gives him an additional 25% defensive boost. So it's just one of these things. And then you take a look at both teams. It's like, does Merge Masu really need defense because you have the LR that can heal and tank as well? So he kind of makes up for the fact that Merge Masu doesn't do too well. But then you have Rage Trunks with Vegito Blue and Super Vegito. You have the INT team with LR Piccolo, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta that can debuff. There are just so many factors that come into it that I kind of have to think a bit more about it. When it comes to relevance in particular teams, I kind of feel like Rage Trunks is at a bit of a disadvantage just because if you take a look at the villain side of things and the units that they have in those particular type groups, it's just so easy to pick out like an optimal 6, whereas with the heroes, it can be a bit harder just because they have so many options, and of course they are introducing even more units that are just going to be better than the others. But I will say that when it comes to teams, he is at a bit of a disadvantage. For example, you have Merge Master that is going to be optimal on that extreme tech type team just because there aren't too many other great options for that particular team. So here it's somewhat unfair, but then of course you have the LR Goku Black and Zamasu lead, which Merge Masu is easily going to be optimal on. You have the villain team, which Merge Masu is easily going to be optimal on, especially on the global version of the game. You have Rage Trunks being optimal on that LR Gohan lead. You have Rage Trunks being optimal on the Super Gogeta lead. But then you look at Rage Trunks on that hero team, and it's just like, he's kind of fallen out a bit. And it's not, again, it's not to say that he is bad by any means, but because of how many new units they have introduced, it's just better to run a different unit, and the majority of the time you're going to be running that Vegito Blue lead, just because of what he provides overall to the team. I know he doesn't give as much of a boost, but the links are kind of weird in these particular teams, because you have Super Saiyan 3 Goku with Over on the Flash, and then of course you have the Super Saiyan 4s with Shocking Speed and Prepare for Battle. So again, it comes down to what you personally own, and I'm definitely going to be repeating that in the majority of these videos, just because that is definitely an important thing. It comes down to what you personally have, and the majority of the time, one unit may be better than the other based on what scenario you are currently in. But then you have to take a look at Rage Trunks and what he provides overall to that N-type team. If you pair him up with Gohan, you're easily going to one-shot every single event without any problems at all. And then if you have a look at Merge Master and what he gives to the LR does need that bit of a build-up when you get every single one of those attack links to go off. And of course, Goku Black and Zamasu have that build-up ready. It's like, they are very similar to what they provide to the LRs. And at the same time, they both hit relatively hard. They have great link sets. And it's just like, which one do you pick in the end? To be honest, I'm going to say that at this point in the game, they are pretty much equal, and the majority comes down to the fact that Rage Trunks just provides so much to LR Gohan, and the same can be said for Merge Master. He just provides a ton to what the LR Goku Black and Zamasu can do, and at the same time, he is still a very good lead himself. Rage Trunks has kind of fallen off in terms of a lead. On the Japanese version of the game, you can definitely debate that Rage Trunks is the better lead, whereas on the global version of the game, Merge Master is the better lead just because of that Goku Black buff. But this is definitely one that I want you guys to debate in the comment section down below. I just want to hear what you guys have to personally say, because I legit can't decide. They are both incredible units. They both have the exact same leader skills for their respective types. Certain team choices make one better than the other, but then you have like a Merge Master's link set. It's like, okay, he gets that 25% to his defense, so he can potentially tank a bit better. He has a free crit ability, whereas Trunks has the dodge. Just so many different scenarios can come into play here, so I definitely want to hear what you guys think. If I 100% had to give my opinion on which one is better, I would have to say that Merge Master slightly edges it. But in my opinion, it mostly comes down to the fact that he does have a superior link set. But yeah, hope you guys did enjoy the video as always. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and just have a fun time debating in the comments. And I will see you all in the next one.